Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, this is Oluwaseun from JMA Training Institute, and a big thank you to JMA Training Institute for this opportunity. And today we'll be talking about CloudFormation, majorly CloudFormation. Yeah, this is the AWS Console, and as you can see, we have CloudFormation right in here. And what does CloudFormation does? It's just a way of automating your resource creation. Instead of you doing it manually, you automate it, and with codes. Majorly they are written either in JSON format or YAML format. So we have here the stack. You can either create a stack, and you see either you create it for the new resources or with an existing resource. You have resources already, you just import it, then you upload, just like some we have here. And we have export, we have stack set, we have designer. Today we'll be focusing on the designer and the CloudFormation designer majorly, and this really helped us a lot. Really helped us a lot. You can easily just in a template format whereby the resource is given to you already, and one way or the other you just join the resources together just to create your resources. And here we are. Can you see this is how the console home page for CloudFormation looks like? As you can see, I said earlier time, JSON format or YAML format. Those are two languages CloudFormation understands. So we have the mapping, we have the condition, we have the metadata, we have the outputs. So these are the resources type. We have different types, but today majorly we'll be talking about how you can automate and auto scaling out of an EC2 instance. That is, you want to automate it whereby you don't need to bother about whether the CPU is almost full or not. So it scales out himself automatically. So that's what we want to do today. And I already have the template here already. So okay, yeah, that's what we'll be using. So here we go. So these are the resources already. So this is what we'll be doing. You want to create a two-tier architecture. So the first thing you have to think of anytime you want to do is you create your VPC. That's the first thing. If you check these templates, all these are metadata. As you can see, they are the metadata. You don't really need them. It creates them automatically by himself. So okay, here we are in the resources. So the first thing you do is you create your VPC. All this code and the rest have been given to you from the AWS Console. AWS, they give you access to all those resources. As you can see, here it is. We have them here. Any resource, any code you want, whether for to scaling group, whether for EC2 instance, whether for internet gateway, whatever it is, you have them right in here at your fingertips. So all you just need to do is, instead of you cracking your head thinking about it, of course you can write it off and but most times you go for the easier way out. So okay, let's go back to what we are the business of today. So we create a VPC. So once you are done with it, this is, as you can see. So don't worry about the coding. It will be provided in GitHub. Just down below the subscribe button, you will see it there. Then remember to subscribe to it. That's very important. Yeah. So we have the availability zone. As you can see, the availability zone is being specified in property IDs. That is where you want the availability. It's a US 1. As you can see, that's a public subnet. Can you see? The availability zone is inside the VPC, and under it we have the public subnet, we have the private subnet. So the next thing you do is you create your public subnet. Yeah, it's your public subnet. And once you are done with that, you create your private subnet. As you can see here, public subnet, private subnet. So you do that. Then, since we want to automate the EC2 creation, that is, we want to allow it to scale in and scale out. So we need an auto scaling group, and we also need a launch template. If you don't use a launch template, you can use a launch configuration either way. But now AWS recommend I use a launch template. Yeah. So once you are done with it, once you are done with your public subnet, you assign by default any subnet you create is private. That's based on AWS. So you assign what you map a public IP on launch to it. So you have it. Cider block, it must not be the same as this. As you can see, this is 10, this is 24. So there's quite the big range. And once they are the same, it gives out an error. Then after that, you come to your private subnet. The same thing to go for the private subnet. They must not have the same cider block IP address. So no. Then you attach them to the VPC ID. So you reference it. That's your VPC ID. The internet gateway, that's very important. You create your internet gateway because that allows you to route traffic to the internet. So you create your internet gateway. Then once you have created it, you attach to your VPC. As you can see, it's been attached to the VPC right in here. So it gives access to any resources being created here to access the internet, as long as it's what is that will give me the permission. Now you create your route table. Your route table here, and you associate the route to it, and the route is being connected to the internet gateway to allow you to access the internet, and the route table is being connected to the public subnet, because the public subnet needs to access the internet. That's why it's public, as you can see from the word public. And why do you need a public subnet? You know, there are some service, there are some app, there are some informations that you like your users to, that you like to make public to the users, so it's been kept in the public subnet. And for those in the private subnets, there are secret information whereby you won't allow anyone else, and just anyone, to access the information, so you keep them in the private subnet. So you are still using the same format for this, because you are creating an EC2 instance, and the same thing for here too. So you create your storage scaling group, then you create your launch template, you get the code, all this code, you get it in the AWS what provided console coding, so you can get it there. So just as I got this one from here too. So you have your auto scaling, you have the code right in here, the maximum size that has to create 1, and the minimum is 0. That is when I'm not using it. If the desired capacity is 1, that is by default it creates 1. Take note of that. By default it creates 1. So I can make it 3, I can make it 4, depending on the workload. So if the workload is very much on maybe during holidays, when the workload is very much, scale out, and when it's being reduced, scaling maybe during weekends, it might scale to 0 when it's not being used. Now AWS, you know, I don't know, in solution architects you see some of these questions just like that, they will ask you that maybe they are not using it during weekends. Now what do you need to do? All you just need to do is what? You schedule scaling. You say schedule scaling, schedule to scaling, but this is not schedule to scaling. Although, so you see, but this is similar to it. You use a schedule to scaling whereby you scaling, and during the holidays not using anything. So once you are done with that, by the time you launch this template, it automatically creates it for you. Then these parameters, talk about the latest AMID parameters, the instance type, that is the Amazon EC2, the allowed values, that is can either be T3 micro, T3 micro small, T3 medium, depending on the work size. So by default, it is T3 micro, that is it creates T3 micro by default. Now you do the same thing here for the private. So let's go back to the AWS CloudFormation Console. So we have it right in here. So yeah, so there are two ways we can either upload this. Is either we create the resources afresh, or just upload the template. So I can either copy the code right from here, right here. Either I copy this code, or I load the code from here. So either ways it works out. So this is it. So let's run it. And here we are. Yeah, so here we are. This is it. This is our internet gateway. As you can see, this is our routes table. Then we have the security group, the route. This is the route table, that's the routes. This is the ALB, the auto scaling group. This is our launch template. This is our private subnet, the public subnet. So this is our VPC. So that's how it works. And before you go ahead, the first thing you need to do is to check for validity of the template. Is it valid? If it's not valid, it won't run, talk less of you proceeding. So you know it from there. So this says template is valid. So the next thing is to create the stack resources. So you have to launch it through the stack wizard. So let's wait for it. Okay. So here it is. It says prerequisite, the template is ready. Then we have an Amazon S3 URL for you to launch. So it says, can I upload? It says, should I want to upload? No, I'm using this already because I already created it in the designer. So the next thing, let me click on next. Now it asks me for a stack name. Okay, let's use Oluwaseun. Okay. Okay. So we have these, then the parameters. I already said earlier by default. I set it to default of T3 micro, but I can either pick T3 small or medium, anyone I want, but by default give me this. That's what I set to. Then this the AMID. So we click on next. So the tags, yeah, let's concern about that. We don't really care about that unless you need to identify your resources. When you're creating multiple resources, that's when you use tags that are similar. Yeah. So we talk about the permission. This is the rollback. Let's talk about this. When we talk about the rollback of stack resources, just like the failure of one leads to the deletion of the remaining. That is, once during the process of creation it encounters a failure of one resources, every other resource will be deleted. It is everything will be rolled back. But this, a failure of one does not affect the creation of other resources. That is, your resources care less about the fall of others. So let's go back to this. Now, okay, we go click on this. Okay, so we have our templates. That's the review. As you can see, that's the review. So we click on create. It takes minutes. Let's say up to around 5, so less than that when creating. But when it comes to RDS and the rest, it takes close to 50 minutes. And if you want to subscribe, in the next video I'll be releasing video on the 3-tier architecture, including the RDS, so do not miss out of it. So okay, and now okay, it's already getting created. It's creating, so we have to wait for some minutes. So that's it. Okay, yeah, so it's still on creation. So let's check on the resources. It's still creating. It's almost done. Okay, yeah, create complete. So that's it. So it's assuming there's an error with the template, it rolls back. It says roll back in progress and automatically delete. But this is a successful one because the template is automatically correct. So all these resources have been created. So okay, let's take a look at our launch instance, the EC2 instance that we created using the launch template. So by default, it says you should pick one as its default value. That's even when there's no workload on it, you should use one EC2 instance. As you can see, default version 1. So now let's check this on our launch template. Let's check whether our instances has been created. So here we are. Can you see they are running perfectly well? And you know, for the public subnets, we have the what? You have the private IP address. The public, sorry, you have public IP address for the what? For the public subnet, while the private does not have what? A public IP address. So the security group is default. So we have not yet associated the security group we created to this EC2 instance. So doing that, all you just need to do is click on action. Then it comes to the security group, change security group, then you select security group. That's SG. That's for the first one. That's the one that has the public IP address. Then you click on save it. So that's done. Can you see? There's a particular question they do ask in the associate exam that security group are when time you change the security group, they are what added instantly. Yeah, instantly. It doesn't wait till shut down. You don't need to shut down. You add it instantly. So that's how it works. So take note of that. And then this too, let's change this to the security group so that it won't. So let's change this to the security group so that it won't have access to the general, since it's under the private subnet, so it won't have access to the general. To this, then we save. So automatically that has been added as successful. So if Azumi wants to go to the internet, we add the user data. So we click on this, then it won't run because the user data is not specified, and then the IP address is out of this range, so it won't go. So you just keep loading, just keep hanging there, so it won't. Okay, so that's just it. Then how do you delete what you have created because of no longer use to you? That's why it's very simple. All you just need to do is click on the delete template. Once you click on the delete, it says, are you sure you want to delete stacks? Yeah. So once you delete, then it starts. As you can see, delete in progress. Once it's done, everything is gone. So you won't, none of them will be there. So you won't just be incurring unnecessary billing. So that's it, and that's everything about 2-tier architecture and CloudFormation you need to know. So on the next video, we'll be talking about 3-tier architecture, that is the web server, the app tier, and the RDS, that relational database. Yeah. Thank you very much once again. This is Oluwaseun from the Training Institute.